I'm going to run through a bit of an overview of the track. So it's 27 kilometres in the Royal National Park, and it traverses the coastline, the full length of the Royal National Park, which is one of Australia's oldest national parks. It's a hike that would take anywhere between 6 and 10 hours to complete in one go. I like to think of it in three parts. If I was to start at the south end at Otford, which is a little suburb on the top of the Illawarra Escarpment, you would go from Otford to Gary Beach, which is a surf club within the Royal National Park, and that's approximately 11 kilometres, so that's the bottom third. Then the middle third is from Gary Beach to Watamulla, which is a very popular picnic ground, which you can drive access to in the national park, and that's about 7 kilometre section. And then from Watamulla picnic ground to Bundeena is the final 9 kilometres. So as we're talking, you'll hear us mention those places, but if you can think of it in those three sections, that helps to understand it. Lots of varied terrain along the way, from the bush to the beaches to tall forests to headlands and cliff tops. Overall, we would say it's a moderately challenging level track. And for me, the best features of the track is its variety in that terrain and in the bush and in what you're going to see. But most people come because of the coastal views. All the beaches and the headlands and the views up and down the coast are pretty spectacular. And if you like swimming, there's lots and lots of opportunities for swimming. So that's a bit of an overview of the 27 kilometre track. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Good to see you.
So you can do it either direction. You can do it from Otford to Bundeena or Bundeena to Otford. We tend to sort of think that it's better to do it from the south going to the north, so from Otford to Bundeena. It is a track you can get to by public transport. There's a train station at Otford that's about 2 kilometres away from Otford Lookout, where the track actually officially starts. So you can catch a train to there, do the walk. At the end at Bundeena, there's a ferry that takes you across to Cronulla, where there's trains from Cronulla that will take you back to wherever you want to go. You would always have to bear in mind that they're reasonably remote areas, so the train and ferry timetable would have to very much be looked at, that you match it and you don't miss it. What time of year? It is a track you could do any time of year. Spring and autumn obviously are your optimal trekking months. However, there's certain things that doing it in summer brings that you don't get in any other times of the year. There are beautiful beaches along the way, so the opportunity to swim is possible, and obviously that's going to be more likely in summer. You've got a longer day that you have to do the trek in, so you're not as bound by rushing out and rushing the track. You can start maybe a little bit later in the day because you can finish it because it's going to be light till 7:30 in summer. Whereas obviously in winter you've got a much shorter day, so that very much has to be in your mind. Of course, in summer you have the complications also of there more likely to be snakes along the path, which is obviously very real. They're more scared of you than you are of them, but obviously that's still it's a concern in summer. Obviously there's the heat, and as we've experienced in the last couple of weeks, you would always have to keep in mind in summer the fact that the national parks could be closed. If there's a total fire ban and it's one of those extremely hot days, the park isn't accessible. They close the walking tracks, and so you're not supposed to walk in summer. So there's certain things to think about if you are thinking about doing it in summer. Then, yep.
So if you've got questions, you can type them in. We may already have it on our list of things to tell you about, but feel free to write them so we make sure we answer any questions that you've got. So I want to talk more specifically about the terrain that you can expect. It's a real mixture of some really easy sections, some flat sections, and then some other sections that are quite steep and more challenging. The track is really very well maintained at the moment. They've put in a whole lot of new boardwalks. They've replaced a whole lot of the steps, which were rocky steps. So some good sandstone stairs. So yeah, it's very well maintained, and it's well signposted as well. So in terms of navigation, it's a reasonably easy track to navigate. You don't really need to take a map. There's, as long as you've got a general idea, you're going to be able to follow the signs and follow the maps that are along the way. You might miss a few of the important spots, but because you've got the coast on the side, on your right-hand side, if you're heading north, you've just got to stick to the coast. So I would divide the walk into two sections. The south section from Otford, the beginning, if you like, in the direction that we're recommending, is the harder section. It's the steep track down to Burning Palms. The headlands are bigger, the tracks are rougher, and yeah, just the steepness of the trail. And then as you get to the north end, so after Gary Headland, after Watamulla, then it flattens out a lot. So it's more of an undulating track. You're up on the cliff tops, you're not into the deep bush. So second half is a little bit more forgiving in terms of level of difficulty. Yeah.
So essentials that you need to think about when you're going to be doing it is, hi Deborah, good to see you've joined us.
Deborah.
So you would think about what you're going to, first of all, the first thing you would ever have to look at to figure out some essentials is what the weather is going to be for your the day that you're going to be trekking. Obviously, all year you would be wanting to wear sunscreen, so that would be an essential, a hat, the appropriate gear to walk in, appropriate shoes. They don't have to be hiking boots, but certainly not thongs or sandals. You'd want a decent pair of joggers that you're going to do it in. Boots would be recommended, especially for the first section where the ground is very uneven and there is more likelihood of going over on your ankle. So certainly your gear, obviously if there's any chance that it might rain, you'd want to be packing a rain jacket with you and wearing a hat. So water, that would depend a little bit on the time of the year. I would recommend for any time of year that you would always think about taking at least 2 to 3 litres. In the summer, you would probably want to take about 1 litre more. There's not really water along the way. You can't rely on there picking up any water along the way. There are some streams and creeks. If you were to pick up the water from there, that you would definitely have to treat it before you would drink it. At some of the more populated areas like Gary and Watamulla, again, you would have to treat the water if it's in a tap when you're getting it from there. Toilets, actual proper toilets along the way are nicely dispersed. There's a toilet at Era, which is about 5 or 6 k's in. There's another one at Gary. There's another toilet at Watamulla, and of course there's toilets on either end. Of course, there is the great outdoors, which is
open all the time.
Open all the time. However, if you are to toilet in the great outdoors, we definitely advise you to use the leave no trace policy, which is you bring a Ziploc bag, any of the toilet paper that you potentially use, you put in your Ziploc bag to take with you. If you are going to, and you would always try to toilet at least far away from any running water source, as far into the bush and as discreet area as possible. Food, there is no food that you can buy along the track, so you have to take everything with you that you're going to eat for the day. Definitely you would want a basic kind of first aid kit to go with you. One of the main reasons that people have any trouble in any trek is blisters, so you definitely want to make sure that you have some sort of blister treatment with you, Band-Aids, Compeeds, Definitely would recommend taking a snake bandage with you. Hopefully you never want to use your snake bandage, but certainly a very easy and small thing to take with you as a precaution. Any personal medications, if you do know you're allergic and you potentially do need an EpiPen, you would pack that. If you are an asthmatic, pack your asthma medication. And we always recommend, if you're going on any hike, you have a space blanket with you. You know, those shiny, silvery type blankets. They're small, they're cheap to buy, and that's something good to have in your pack just in case something untoward happens and you actually need to take shelter or, yeah.
So the purpose of those is you can make a shelter, but you can also just cover somebody, either protect them from the sun or help them keep warm, out of the wind, things like that.
Yeah. So
hi Roshwin, hi Bernie.
Hey, oh hey, how you going? Also, the mobile reception on the track is very intermittent. You can't rely on that either. You know, you can potentially get it as you go up up the hills, and generally Telstra, you're always going to get a bit more reception than your other networks. There are 2 road access points along the way, one being at Gary and one being at Watermulla. So if there is, for any reason, you need to leave, or just so you know that there is a place that people can get to you. You can get at about a third of the way in at Gary and about 2/3 of the way in at Watermulla. There is road access. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I have chosen, because I've done this many times, and as a lot of you know, I live in Bundeena, so do lots of walking on this trail. So I picked my 7 favourite spots, and just so I know some of you are still there, as I go through and talk about each spot, if you've been there and you thought it was a great location and one you would recommend also, I want you to add some love hearts or thumbs up or something, react to it. So others that haven't done it can also make their judgment. So starting from the bottom, number 1 at the bottom is Gary Beach. I think Gary Beach is one of my favourite wild beaches, and that's why it reaches my top 7 spots, is because it is just spectacular. The ocean is quite wild. There's headlands at both ends, and yeah, it's quite a unique spot. It's also got some facilities there, so it's a good spot to go to the toilet and potentially have a bit of a break.
Ooh, lots of thumbs up. Lots of
so Gary Beach
like that one.
is pretty nice. The next one along the way between Gary and Watermulla is Eagle Rock. Now, Eagle Rock is a rock formation that pokes out into the ocean, looks like an eagle's head. And as you come down the track, sort of heading down towards, it's called Curracorong Creek, you look to your right and you can see Eagle Rock sticking out. And if you Google Eagle Rock images, you'll see photos of that. So that's a pretty nice one to look out at.
Yeah, lots of love hearts like that one.
Number 3 is called Curracorong. Curracorong is an Aboriginal area. You can sort of see why Aboriginal communities from the Darwin people would have used this area. It's where a creek comes down and meets the ocean, and the track, up to this point, the track is up on the headland, and then it comes down to where the ocean meets. Now, this is my secret spot, is don't tell anyone. If you take the track away from the ocean and you follow the creek about 100 and 150 metres along that creek, you'll find this beautiful little swimming hole with a waterfall, deep swimming hole. I know a couple of you I've taken there. The locals around Bundeena, we call it Dragon Pool. Others, I think, call it Curracorong Pool. But yeah,
I think that's because of the water dragons that are all around it.
Yeah, it's not that there's a dragon or anything. Yeah, it's the water dragon. So Curracorong is pretty nice if you can find it. So if you do go there and you want more specific directions, I can give that to you. Then you keep going and you'll hit Watermulla Lagoon. And I mentioned before that Watermulla is a really popular picnic area. and you can see why. It's got a spectacular lagoon with a cliff with a waterfall. It's sort of a 10-metre high cliff, and the lagoon you can swim in, you can picnic, you can walk out to the ocean, beaches. So Watamulla is pretty amazing. But at the moment, it's super duper packed on the weekends. So it's a place I would never go on a Sunday if I could avoid it. But yeah, it's beautiful. Then keeping on going north, number 5, you go past 2 beaches called Little Gary and Marley. Little Marley and then Marley, and then you hit Marley Headland. And Marley Headland, at the top of that beach, offers probably some of the best views that you get the whole way along. You sit on the top of that headland and look south, and it's like you can almost see all the way to Wollongong. So amazing views on Marley Head. And then a little on from Marley Head is number 6 is Wedding Cake Rock. So most of you have probably heard of Wedding Cake Rock. Now, for Wedding Cake Rock, I'd have to say that this is probably one of the most disappointing spots. People want to come and see Wedding Cake Rock because it's out there in social media, but it's got a big, ugly fence. You can't really see the rock very well.
For good reason, though. The fence is there for good reason.
That's true.
Because it's very unstable geology. So
yeah. So I wouldn't just go and do the walk just to see Wedding Cake Rock. You're better off, if you go to Wedding Cake Rock, go further to Marley Head, which is got better views. And then you head into Bundeena. You probably end up at the ferry, and you can miss one of the most spectacular beaches in the national park, which is Gibbon Beach. So that's my number 7, is if you get down to the ferry and you can take the walk along the coast towards towards the coastline, so east, and you can end up on Gibbon Beach, which is a kind of a flat beach with the national park on its back, and it's got views towards the city. And at sunset, so if you've done your full walk and you end up on Gibbon Beach, nothing like a glass of champagne or something on Gibbon Beach to finish with. And one other spot, you may ask, can you do figure 8 pools? Because figure 8 pools, it's technically not on the coast track. You sort of go past it. But to add on figure 8 pools, an extra hour and a half to add that on. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that on the day that I was doing the full coast walk. So figure 8 pools, we're going to do that on another Facebook Live as well. We'll tell you how to get there and how to do that the best. So yeah, so there's my 7 and a bit spots to go.
That's the thing. In order to attempt it, obviously we think that you should have some sort of experience in walking, and walking for a decent length of time. Very much keep in mind how many hours of daylight there is in the day. Of course, if you get to Bundeena, the ferries I think finish at about 6 o'clock. So you've got to keep that in mind. Any questions that we've got?
So Therese has asked roughly the timing. So going those 3 sections, I would say 3 to 4 hours to get to Gary from Otford. And then you'd be looking at 2 and a bit hours from Gary to Watamulla, and then Watamulla to Bundeena, maybe again 3 hours and a bit for that. So yeah, your first section is going to be a bit slower, so maybe 4 hours. What does that make? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's sort of the timing.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea is to appreciate and have a look around. And if you are doing it from Otford to Bundeena, remembering to turn around and look down the coast, because there's some spectacular views looking from where you actually have come from. Hey, Liz.
Liz, good to see you on.
Yes. So if you're really wanting the massive challenge with it all, in September they do a Coastal Classic, which you can actually run the entire track. That's a whole other level.
Is it?
Yep.
I wanted to just kind of finish off with answering a question that I think people that haven't done it might have, which is how much experience do you need to be able to do this hike in a single day? And I'd say it's a good hike to do if you've done a full day hike before, and you know your feet and how they react. You know you can walk for a full day. Then I think this is a good one that you can do on your own or with a friend, because the navigation is reasonably simple. And yeah, while it's a long day, if you're well prepared and you understand the things you need to take, then it's a good one to do. Obviously, knowing some first aid, just having a good level of fitness walking. But if you don't feel like you're up for that, then you can definitely break this up into maybe two walks. And like I said, we said 3 sections. So I would say go from Otford to Gary, do that for a day, and then another day you could do the Gary to Bundina or Bundina to Gary. Obviously, you'll need to arrange car transport.
There's no public transport in the middle of this section of the track, just the beginning and the end.
Even you could stay a night in Bundina or somewhere like that to do it over a weekend. It is possible to camp as well at North Era, which is just south of Gary. So, yeah, you have to go through national parks to arrange for a camping permit. So that's possible.
It's a good walk. It's like on the weekend, if you're thinking about doing it on your own, it's not such a bad one to do on your own. You will see people, so it's not, you won't be doing something completely on your own. And there are, like I said, there's sort of little communities along the way. So definitely, at Gary, you're going to definitely see people. Guatemala, you'll definitely see other people. So it's not a track that you're going to do 27 kilometres and never see another person.
A question from Claire about if there was an incident, is there mobile reception along the whole way? So the answer to that is no, there's not mobile reception along the whole way, but there are lots of places along the way where you can get mobile reception, and so you can generally walk a reasonably short distance to find that mobile reception. Apparently there was a phone at Guatemala recently, but it popped up on my feeds the other day that phone is now out of order. So whether they're fixing that.
Satellite phones.
Yeah, maybe a satellite phone, something like that. So, yeah, you do need to consider that you might not have mobile reception at certain times, but you can either get it or perhaps you can hire yourself a PLB from probably Sutherland Police Station or somewhere like that. You can hire a personal locator beacon if you feel like you would need one.
Any other questions?
So if you don't have any questions, then give us some more love hearts or thumbs up if you think that this is something that's worth us doing and you'd like us to do it again. I don't know that there is a thumbs down thing or a sad face